All right, welcome to Thursday with Wendler. As always, guys, if anyone is watching, please send me a thumbs up or some kind of message in the chat just to make sure that this is going. As I'm trying to do more often now, or at least regularly, I'm going to preview a couple musical selections I think are worthy of being talked about. And I think, so anyway, here we go. This first album is a band called Pyramids. It's called what is it called? A Northern Meadow. It was released in 2015. It is one of the oddest combinations of musical genres ever. It is like for reference, the drum programming on here was done by Vidsval or something like that, the guy from Bludos Nord. Should give you a little reference point, but somehow it's got a little black metal, like weird ambient stuff, but it's definitely odd and it's incredibly good. There is a song on here called, God, what is it called? Substance of Grief is Not Imaginary. When I first heard that song, I actually called my good friend Joey Waters up that day, and I never talk on the phone. So I remember I called him up and he's like, dude, what's wrong? Like, is everything all right? And I said, dude, I sent him the link. I'm like, just tell me what you think. It was one of the few songs I've ever heard that made such an immediate impact. It's so odd, and it's just a weird, awesome sounding album. Highly recommended. The band, again, is Pyramids. The name of the album is A Northern Meadow. If you want something a little different, I highly recommend this. Highly recommend this. I've listened to this a million times, okay? And it's also on Profound Lore, and if anyone knows anything about Profound Lore, they do a tremendous job of finding albums that are and bands that are a little out of left field. Portal being a great example. All right, this next one, I've talked about this a million times. This is my second copy of Migration by the band Buried at Sea. This was released in 2003. I got this right when it came out. I remember hearing a clip of it on the All That Is Heavy. Is that what it was called? All That Is Heavy website. That's where I bought a lot of my CDs. I don't even know if it's still operational, but anyway, this is to me, the heaviest album ever released. Absolutely crushing. Sanford Parker, who I believe recorded and mixed this album, is also part of the band. He's one of the guitarists and one of the singers. I call it like Neurosis on Quaaludes. It is one of the few what I call like doom sludge albums that has always forward movement. A lot of the old school sludge albums, like the bands, I should say, Grief, for example, and you could probably say, oh my God, what's Burning Witch? They are very slow motion and they don't feel like they're going anywhere a lot of the time, which is what they want. But this is just constant movement. It feels like a slow wave of death just crushing you the entire time. This has only 3 songs. I think it's like probably 32, 34 minutes or something like that. And they don't have a big catalog. I know they released this. They released Ghost, which is an EP, and they released I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 songs. And I got a chance to see them live in 2011. It was almost like 6 weeks after I got hit in my motorcycle. I remember my wife and I, she was still pregnant at the time. We drove there to Chicago to go see it with a couple of my buddies. I was all bandaged up, but still one of the greatest things I've ever heard. And that concert was unbelievable. As always, I was up front like an idiot, playing all the songs on my make sure. All right, we're good. On my air guitar. So one of the most memorable things I've ever been to was, and I'm super happy that they reformed. I know they've done a few, they did like Road Burn, and I think they've done a few other things, but super happy I got to see them. Oh my God, is it loud and crushing live experience. It sounds loud on the recording too. So I still remember. That's another album, talking about Joey Waters, my good buddy I play in a band with. This is the album that we bonded over as a reference point to what we love. So anyway, as always, if you have a question, ask me in the chat, beep, wherever it is on your screen there, and I will do my best to answer it. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh my God. Oh. All right, here we go. Albert Wang says, hey, I'm planning to do Beyond 531. What is your best advice? He said I should say I meant the Beyond 531 templates. So my best advice, Albert, is don't go overboard in the first 1 or 2 cycles. You have to be very good, because I use a version of the Beyond style training when I work with people personally in my gym. When we use the Crypa program, we use a Beyond inspired training. So we do a lot of auto regulation within the training day. So you've got to be very smart with that, and you have to understand when to go forward and when to go back. And that's very difficult if you don't have a coach and you don't have someone working with you. So that's the number one thing. Other than that, just don't wipe yourself out. Even if you feel really good, you have to understand you want to take advantage of having good days, but it shouldn't be so bad that when you come in to train the next day that you're completely wiped out. And again, that's a tough part about auto-regulation. Again, if you can get yourself at least a training partner that can kind of point you out to different stuff, right, and keep you on track, so to speak. So that'd be my best advice, is just be smart with the auto-regulation that is part of the Beyond. And don't be afraid when you do your FSL work to do different. If you've got to adjust the weight, either plus or minus, do that. You can adjust the reps plus or minus. And with the FSL work, one of the things that people always do is if they're struggling, let's say, and they can't get whatever reps, let's say they can't get sets of 10, they'll drop to sets of 5. You can also drop the weight. All right, that's another thing, especially when I'm starting someone, the first 3 to 6 weeks or so, somewhere in there, we will drop the weight and make sure we're getting the reps, because at that point, at least in my estimation, the reps are what's important, not so much the weight. And I'm telling you, if you do the auto-regulation correct, good things will happen. So, all right, Brandon Fink. He says, suggestion, my gym does not have a glute ham raise. I'm pretty exhausted with the seated leg curls. I do RDLs and stiff leg deadlifts. Any ideas on other direct hamstring work? I tried using the 45-degree back extension this morning with a band around my back. All right, so there's a couple things here, Brandon. First, if you do decide to use the back extension, there's a couple ways you can do it. It essentially looks the same, but if you're doing the back extension for your hamstrings specifically, make sure that that's where you feel it. So you're going to have to adjust your body, maybe your back, anything like that. So make sure that you don't just do the exercise, that you do it correctly. For example, at this point, most of my back extensions, I do them for my strengthen my back, obviously my low back, and I also do it for my glutes. And it's just the way that I do it will change based on what I want to target at that time. So make sure you understand that. The other thing I would probably recommend is, and I use the 45-degree back extensions. I do Nordic leg curls on that. And because of the angle of the 45-degree back extension, it makes it super easy. And as you get better, you can raise the back end of the 45-degree back extension so it's a little flatter and make it harder. So that, to me, that's the number one besides regular back extensions. And I also do leg curls with the ankle weights, but I do those for super high reps. The Nordic leg curls on the 45-degree back extension is my main hamstring exercise. The other thing, I don't know if I just said this or not, you can do good mornings. You can use a band, but generally I think the barbell works better for the hamstring. It doesn't have to be super heavy. And again, make sure when you do the good mornings, your butt's way back, you have a good arch, all that other good stuff. So you really target the hamstrings. And there's variations within there. Again, you probably don't, the one thing with good mornings, especially when you start, you don't have to go very heavy. Most people can get a lot out of 95 and 135 with a good morning, provided they do the exercise correctly and it's not just done to do the movement, so to speak, it's done to stress the muscle, and that's super important. So those two things, the Nordic leg curls on the back extension and the good mornings, I would probably steer you towards. To me, the good morning was one of the best things I ever did and one of the worst things I ever did. When I first started powerlifting, I started doing good mornings, and I started very light, right? Just like I tell everyone else to, and that's when I got the most out of them. Once I got to a certain point, I don't think it made me any better. It just stressed my back and kind of hurt myself. quite a bit. Once you get to a certain point, I think there's a massive point of diminishing returns with the good morning. But I still think, in my estimation, to strengthen your hamstrings, glutes, and back, the good morning, if you don't have access to a back raise or 45-degree back raise, one of the best things. And that's why I always call, when I did a lot of weighted back extensions with the bar on my neck, I call that doing a good morning without all the politics, because it took out any kind of cheating. So again, the band around your back when you do 45s is fine, but I would, if you can, put an empty bar back there. It takes you a little schmoozing to get in, and once you understand how to do it, it's pretty easy. But the barbell on the back, and you have to kind of put it high up, almost on your neck, and you're never going to use a weight that's going to be terribly heavy when you use that, so you'll be fine. All righty, I hope that helps, Brandon. And just as always, Brandon, make sure that you're smart about the loading. You know, here's another thing. I do these, you could do 45-degree back extensions while holding dumbbells. The range of motion is very little. It's very small. But oh my God, you start doing some higher reps in there with some heavier weights, it's unbelievable. So don't be afraid to take some of these exercises like the back extension and stuff like that to some higher reps either. When I say higher reps, I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50 in a set. It'll really smoke your hamstrings more than you think. All right, here we go. Matthew Julian, I recognize that. He says, hey, Jim, I thought I'd give an update on my hip surgery. All right. Oof. He says, I'm walking much better, and I got to do light leg extension and hamstrings curls at PT the other day, which felt amazing. I'm sure it did. You feel like you want to treat it like you're actually training hard, even though it's rehab and it's leg extension, leg curls. I totally get that. Still taking it very slow. When I get back to it, I'm going to cut way back on the squat volume to save my hips. That's super good. What do you think of alternating between two lower body main lifts, alternating trap bar and box squat each week? So what I would probably do, Matthew, is, this has just been my experience, one of those might feel a little better than the other, okay? So for example, when I had my back surgery, for whatever reason, I could trap bar, I was fine, but squatting felt odd. So instead of trying to like desperately squat again, I just mostly did trap bar until my back felt good enough to squat. So don't be scared to exploit the lift that you actually feel like doesn't aggravate your injury, okay? So I don't know what that's gonna be. The other thing is, especially when you start, if you can trap bar on the high handles or maybe put it on blocks to start with, and just make sure your box squat height is appropriate for your current readiness that, at that time, that day, and stuff like that. So if that means you gotta go fairly high, go ahead and do it. Don't get all wrapped up in, I gotta get to parallel or anything. Just use the box height that is appropriate that you can do. All right. I am, the more that I look back and some of the stuff that I've done and mostly mistakes that I made, as I got older and I was still lifting heavy, the one thing I would have definitely changed, I would have box squatted. And I would have box squatted on a box that was at least, I don't know what exact, maybe 2 inches above parallel. I think that will save your hips and your knees more than people think. I'm trying to think of anything else. The other thing, Matthew, is make sure the loading on those two movements is appropriate, meaning that you're able to use correct form. Don't just say, well, I picked up the bar, that means it's the weight is correct. Make sure you're able to push your hips way back. It's back is always in a good position and stuff like that. So, but good luck, Matthew. Again, anyone that's suffering from any kind of injury and rehab, extend the rehab as long as almost twice as long as what they tell you. Really do a good job of coming back strong, because if you rush back and get hurt, you're gonna have to redo everything, and it's just gonna feel like shit. So I'd rather, we call it front loading the rehab. I think that's one of the smartest things I ever did when I had my shoulder surgery and my back surgery. I did a good job of keeping everything in perspective, so to speak. Logan Florence says, what do most people get wrong on the original Crypa program? Any tips in general? I think the one of the big things is they get, and this is not just part of the Cryptea program, it's with anything. They get really scared about the training max. They're constantly trying to, like, I got to use this and that. Don't worry about that. You got to learn how to get the pace of the training down. Make sure the assistance work is solid. So whatever weights you need to use on the assistance work is fine, because a lot of the times the first couple weeks, man, it feels like death. If you do it correctly, and trust me, I do. That's mostly what I use with our kids. Well, the people in my garage, I use that. If you do it correctly, it's going to catch up to you a little bit. So just make sure the loading is correct. Make sure your reps are really solid. The other thing I would probably do is cut your FSL work and be getting down to just sets of 5, so that your body's getting used to the pace and stuff like that. We now, as long as we're not doing like a single leg movement or doing like a row where you're alternating arms, we usually get our training done in about 30 minutes. I don't advocate that all the time, because I know 45 minutes was the original goal. But just understand, once you get good and in better training shape, Logan, your training will, how do I put this? Your training fitness will improve a great deal. But don't, like, I guess the other thing is, don't rush the training to finish in a certain amount of time. The time should happen naturally. I hope that makes sense to you. So I don't push the kids to finish in 30 minutes. We finish in 30 minutes because that's how good a shape we're in. So we never want to compromise any of the training or any of the reps because we're too fatigued. So that's another big thing. We recently at the London High School, we did, because I had a smaller group, we did a version of the Cryptea training program, because we only had like 15 or 20 kids in these groups. It was super easy to implement. And it was amazing to see these kids who are in tremendous shape by doing this style of training. It catches up to you, so you got to be smart. You got to be smart with that. Coco Loco says, hey Jim, questions. Do you have any tips to finding good non-taxing assistance exercises that are giving results? I don't have any really tips. It's just obviously the number one thing is generally the loading is going to be one of the big things. For example, side laterals, because you're not going to be handling terribly heavy dumbbells, will probably be less taxing than overhead dumbbell press or dumbbell bench press. Lat pulls will be less taxing than chin-ups. So my big thing is just find, machine exercises. They're generally easier than a lot of the barbell, not all the time, but in general. So if you have access to, like some hammer strength machines and stuff like that, they are generally less taxing. The other thing is if you can use bands, so tricep extensions, you can do up rows, you can do lat pull downs with the bands, stuff like that. That's generally very easy on the body, easy on the joints, and you can hit some super high reps. If anyone's familiar with the writings of Louis Simmons, oh my God, I can't remember his name. I'm sure I could. This was in the probably late 90s, early 2000s. Sonny was his first name. He did a lot of tricep band pushdowns, and we just do sets of 100. So instead of doing like a set of 10, find the band and and just start doing higher reps with the bands too. So that's probably what I would probably do. And again, the other thing is, even if you still want to do dumbbell squats or dumbbell bench or dumbbell rows, if you find that exercise is too taxing, just use a lighter weight and don't go to failure. So generally, I'm not the way that we train, generally we want the assistance exercises to be kind of hard. So I don't really always try to find the easy stuff, to be completely honest. But bands, easier movements and machines are probably what I would recommend. Okay, Scruff McBuff says, because of back issues, I'm looking to replace barbell squats and deadlifts with kettlebell squats and kettlebell cleans and snatches. Would I just swap those out as the main lift and increase the reps since the loading would be less? Yeah, you're going to replace them, but it's not like a one-to-one thing. So when we use dumbbell squats, and we do dumbbell snatches and cleans and stuff like that. We always treat that as assistance work. That doesn't mean you can't do it as your main lift, but it's going to be completely different. The volume's going to be higher. The reps will be higher, obviously. It's kind of like you can't replace like push-ups for the bench press. It's harder to load. It responds differently. I mean, you're not going to do like a 1 rep max on a push-up or anything like that. So that's what I would probably recommend. And you know, how we generally do the dumbbell squats and the cleans and snatches with the total rep volume. So what that might be for you, I don't know. I don't know what kind of shape you're in, and I'm not sure your experience level, but we generally stick to around 50 to 100 total reps. And that could be some higher rep sets, lower rep sets. We just kind of have some fun. And obviously you can do more. Sometimes it might be a little less, obviously. But yeah, I would, if I were you, Scruff, I would have some fun. Start with, for example, in the kettlebell squats or barbell dumbbell squats, start with whatever weight, get a nice couple warm-ups in, and then have some challenges in there. You know, one of the things we do is we might do 3 sets of 20 at a given weight. We might work up to a heavy set of 10, or, you know, like kids love working up to the 150 and trying one all-out set, because that's our heaviest dumbbell. We will also do like 100 rep set, which is bananas, or, you know, 50, something like that. So have a little fun with that stuff, at least once you get used to doing it. Coco Loco says, hey, do you have any sign that you know you need to deload or decrease intensity before it's too late? I am thinking for the 4th or 5th obligatory deload, but maybe you have something else in your pocket. Do I have any? I don't know how to really, generally speaking, you want to deload before you deload, and that's only comes with experience. I'll be completely honest. There's nothing that's gonna tell you, but generally speaking, if I had 3 or 4 really good weeks, I know I'm gonna have to back off, because I might get 2 or more good weeks in there, and then everything's gonna come crashing. So I try to get that deload in before the crash happens. And so what you're gonna have to figure out, Coco Loco, is where that line is for you. But that's just been my experience. Obviously, when you start feeling run down, you've got to be a little smart. And the other thing you have to do is, if you're constantly feeling like you're getting run down, you've got to adjust your training and then increase your fitness levels, or do something. You shouldn't feel that bad. We always deload before we need the deload. That's the most important thing. And again, the deload doesn't just have to be in decreasing intensity. We sometimes work up to something heavy and our volume will be very low, or we'll use very easy, as we talked about with the assistance work. Just take, you know, a couple band exercises or body weight movements and just get a good pump and then get on your way. So it's very hard for me to tell you exactly when, because it's going to be different. But generally speaking, if I have 3, 4, somewhere in there, really good weeks, and I'm starting to hit some serious PRs, I know the wheels are going to come off. So it's best to back off a little bit and then come back and hit it again. So Jeremy R says, what can be done daily to improve posture that won't affect training sessions? Would a rower done daily suffice? Well, I'm not terribly knowledgeable, but would be to have a reminder that to always sit correctly and stand correctly. If you have a little thing on your desk, or you can have a rubber band, right around your wrist or something, that your posture you always work on it, because no matter what you do for an hour a day, if you're slumped the rest of the day, Jeremy, it's not going to matter, right? So even, and I'm trying to sit up straight, better. So I just a constant reminder. So I don't know, other than obviously, making sure that you're getting some upper back work and lat work in, and making sure your mobility in your shoulders and upper back or thoracic mobility is good. Stuff like that. Obviously, hips would be a big thing, any kind of mobility work. But I think the most important thing, Jeremy, is a constant reminder that when you're not training, is that your posture is solid, that your neck's not forward, you're not rounded like that. So this is not like a sexy training question, but I think that's super important. Even walking, making sure, it doesn't mean you have to like nitpick everything you do, but just make sure you're standing up straight. you feel you're walking proud, so to speak. You're not just all slumped over looking at your phone. And that's another thing, right? Get the fuck off your phone. That's a big thing. Go to the airport sometime, or just see how many people are just slumped over looking at their phone. I took a bunch of plane trips in the last couple months, and it's unbelievable. It makes you want to just stare at the wall. It's kind of depressing. All right, here we go. Matt says, hey, man, this is a blessing to get on here. Well, I appreciate that, Matt. I'm not sure this is quite a blessing. He says, I just heard a 531 a couple weeks ago. I'm 45 years old and just getting into working out. I had a stroke 3 years ago. Whew, and want to gain strength again. Oh, man. So, Matt, here's the couple things. And again, I'm not a doctor, is make sure, and I talk about this all the time, regardless if you're just a regular dude or if you're a football player or, hunter, I don't know, special forces guys. Regardless of what you're doing, you got to get some kind of strength work in, whether that's barbell, kettlebell, body weight, some kind of resistance, some kind of conditioning. And I think for you, Matt, if you've had a stroke, you probably have heard this, is make sure you have, you train your heart, so to speak, and make sure you're doing some kind of movement and mobility work. So regardless of where your goals are, Matt, I think those three things need to be stressed. And I think obviously if you can train with a barbell, it's the most efficient way to get stronger. My best advice is make sure you do your walking and your bike riding. I would personally, man, I would do that every single day, 20 to 45 minutes at least. It doesn't have to be like fucking balls out hard or, like you're joining the Marines or anything like that. And then with the loading on the barbell, just start off light, man. Get used to doing everything. You don't need to break world records in your first year. So just be smart. And you're 45. Your body's going to feel a little beat up and you're going to be sore, and that's fine. If it's your first time kind of training, it's going to feel shitty sometimes. But don't go bananas, man. I personally, man, if I was training you, you do probably no more than one main lift and probably 2 to 4 assistance lifts. You would leave the garage every day feeling fine. Especially at the beginning, I wouldn't overdo it. So I just want to get you used to the training, get you used to the movements, and keep you hungry. All right, I've seen this a million times. Everyone's seen this after New Year's, right? I'm going to train 7 days a week, and then the first 2 workouts are about 2.5 hours, and then they don't train for the next 6 years. So short bursts of good training will help you out, man. Keep yourself hungry. Matthew Julian says, you best believe I crushed those 3-pound ankle weights on leg extensions. Oh yeah. That's when you're like, listen, lady, I'm going to do about 400 of these per leg. Just get a huge quad pump. Yep. All right, here we go. Ivan Bunchik says, hello, boss. Thank you, Ivan. My recovery is pretty bad, so I'm experimenting by doing just the main lift and supplementary lifts and pull-ups. Might do some core as well. Do you think I can still make solid progress? Yes. The reason why is because you're going to recover better. You don't have to beat the shit out of yourself every day to make progress, guys. And progress isn't from workout to workout to workout, guys. It is a giant, drone looking over space or looking over the earth, so to speak. All right. So the training, Ivan, doesn't have to increase from workout to workout or week to week. That's ridiculous. The training is, so what I would do is I would be very conservative, because if your recovery is bad, conservative in what you're doing and be smart. And the better you recover, the better off you're going to be. The hard thing I'm going to tell you right now, Ivan, is you're going to really do well for a couple weeks, right? You're going to set like, listen, I can only do X, Y, and Z and only do it. And then all of a sudden you're going to be feeling really good. All right. And you're like, well, I guess I can go ahead and do a million things, which is not how it's supposed to be. Just keep on doing the things that make you feel good. And just do them better, all right? I've told this story many times, but one of the first things I did when I started doing the sauce, so to speak, was I'm like, well, I can do them. Now I can train for 4 hours a day, right? My recovery's great. And after a few sessions, it was horrible. And so what I learned is I'm gonna let the sauce do the work, but what I'm gonna do is let it work and allow myself to do what I usually do and just do it at a better level. That's what I would highly recommend you learn, Ivan, because if you, again, you're going to get caught up, you're going to feel good, and then you're going to go back to your old habits. Do not do it. Do not do it. Burn. Hold on, I just lost my place here. As always. Burn Strading says, hey, good morning, coach. Thanks for doing these. Well, thank you for attending them. Hot take for all the dads. I've got 2 kids under 9 and a backyard trampoline. Has proven to be absolutely awesome for GPP, strong legs, and strong lungs. We just got rid of our trampoline. James was getting a little too big for it when him and his friends would go on it. It was a big trampoline. It just started sinking a little bit. So we got it as a hand-me-down gift from a neighbor, and then we hand-me-downed it to another neighbor. So it's awesome to see it still in use. So if you ever want to feel like an idiot, go to one of those trampoline parks. Oh my God. So good for you, Burn. Got 2 kids under 9. Woo. I couldn't imagine that. God, I see people with like 5 kids. Oh my God. Oh. I don't know if you're a saint or you're bananas. All right, Scruff McBuff says, hey, thanks as always, Jim. I appreciate it. Thank you, Scruff. I appreciate it. Rats says, can you replace the overhead press with incline press to get more benching volume? Well, it doesn't make any sense because you're not benching. I don't know so you're still incline pressing, so I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Yeah, if you want to replace the overhead press with the incline press, that's fine. Not a problem. I just don't understand really what that means, though. So it's like, can I replace the deadlift with the trap bar so I can get some more squatting in? So whatever. But if you want to do that, that's fine, buddy. John Donovan. What would be a good weight-bearing exercise that my 69-year-old mom can do that won't place a barbell across her neck, trap, or rear delt area? Whew. Well, even it's not exactly what you're looking for, but I would probably do some kind of, if that was my mom, John, I would probably do some, if she could, some kind of dumbbell or kettlebell squat, and then I would do some kind of farmer's walk. So that would be the 2 things I would do. The other thing is if you have access to a sled, I think that is a godsend. It is not a weight-bearing movement, so to speak, but I think that is a awesome way to train. Whether you're young, old, elite, beginner, whatever you are, I think the sled is probably the most useful tool that you can have. Whether that be just a regular dragging sled or a prowler that you push or drag, forwards and backs. So I think any kind of, and with a dumbbell or kettlebell squat or whatever, John, if she has to go to a chair or box, go ahead and do that, especially in the beginning. I think just carrying dumbbells or something like that, obviously for the farmer walk, I think would be amazing. And then if you can do, it doesn't have to be super heavy sled work, maybe 10, I don't know. I don't train my mom, so I don't really know, but maybe, 5 to 10 trips, 20 to 40 yards or so, and you can alter the weight and just show her, walking forwards, walking backwards, I think is super awesome, especially for the knees and the quads. You don't have to nitpick all that stuff, but those would probably, if I was training my mom, those 3 things I would definitely work with. Obviously, if she can trap bar or deadlift, that's great too, but I think the farmer's walk, the squat, and the sled would be, bar none, I think you get a lot of shit going there. So, okay, so Matt, who was the guy who had the stroke, okay, so you have been training before, Matt, so you kind of know what to do. Again, Matt, remember, again, this goes for everyone. When you get older, you have to take that into account. You had a stroke, you're 45, all right, that doesn't mean you can't train hard. It just means you're not 18 anymore. So please understand that. Don't go bananas in the beginning, guys. All right, here we go. Tyler Drake says, hey, I'm doing the 2x2x2 from your Forever book. That's awesome. I can't squat or deadlift right now thanks to hip and low back issues. So he's doing 2 days of pressing, 2 days of sled pulling, and 2 days of yoga. This format has helped me a lot. That is awesome. Right when I saw, Tyler, that you said you can't squat or deadlift, I'm like, that motherfucker better be pushing and pulling the sled. So that's awesome. Very cool. And the other thing, Tyler, the one thing that I kind of had to change my way of thinking with the sled was I usually just do it like I would do, we do with football players or whatever, 20, 30, 40-yard sprints. But when I started, I didn't do this all the time, but when I started doing some stupid sled stuff, especially when it gets like a half mile to a mile, it was awesome for me. So not saying you do that all the time, but don't be afraid to start dragging a sled that long. Obviously, you don't just do it the entire time. I usually do about 50 steps or so, or I got to go to this mailbox and I'll stop. So it may take you a little bit longer, but it's awesome for your conditioning. It's awesome for your legs. And the other thing, man, it's just quiet time, so to speak, even though obviously it's sliding on the pavement or whatever you're pushing or pulling on, but it's just kind of relaxing. Bill Coyne, there we go. Sonny Kirshner, that's the Louis Simmons article about doing the band pushdowns. There you go. All right, so I got the first name right. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Kuhner says, I like loading push-ups on parallettes or gymnastics rings using a weight belt around my upper back. It works great. There you go. I do. Obviously, people have seen the push-up handles that I built from plumbing supplies. They're awesome. So I use, for my own training, I do a ton of push-ups on those things. Obviously, body weight and a lot with the weight vest. So, yeah. In fact, before there was the TRX straps, I built my own, what do you call those things? This is how Elite FTS, not to say I'm the greatest man in the world, but the blast straps, I built my own blast straps in the early or late 90s. Just used it. I bought some chains, I bought some D handles, and I would just, put a barbell up in a rack and I would just hang the chains, and that's how I did them. And the push-ups from the rings, so to speak, I always put an average band in each hand and put it around my neck, and I did a ton of volume on that, making sure when you push, you hold at the top, completely smokes your triceps, and it teaches you how to, what I call, outrun your triceps, outrun the fatigue in your triceps, so you learn how to push incredibly fast so the bands don't take over. It was an awesome way of training. My bench really skyrocketed. That and overhead press really gave my bench a huge boost. Cuter says, hey Jim, the first time catching this live, but I always watch them later. I appreciate that. He says he appreciates them. Well, I appreciate anyone who watches and contributes, so thank you. The Pro says, good morning, boss. Thank you, Pro. For those that don't know, I've always wanted the kids to call me boss, but no one does. So, of course, I don't ask them to, but it wouldn't kill them, right? He says, no questions today. Just wanted to say hello. Well, thank you. You are very welcome, Coco. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the questions, too. Jermel McLeod says, hey, Jim, do you think training to failure is important for muscle building? It seems nowadays there's a battle between training to failure and recovery a bunch, or doing tons of volume. All right, let's talk about this. Do I think training to failure is important for muscle building? It can be, yes. Okay, it doesn't have to happen all the time. We generally don't train to failure. When we're lifting heavier weights, we like to keep that a little lower. We like the barbell. This is just how I do it, to have some good bar speed. Even if they're struggling, I want them pushing fast, but we generally don't take the sets to failure. We take the assistance to failure. There is, you guys have to understand that if your goal is to get stronger, and whatever that means to you, I don't know. Like, you're gonna have to do some stupid shit. You're gonna have to push harder. You're gonna have to tap into some recovery stores. It's not gonna happen, guys. If you're gonna push farther than where you wanna be, like you think you can be, it's gonna happen. If you're obviously operating in some dorky scientific zone, you're not gonna get any better. There's no way around it. None. All right, that doesn't mean you can't get in better shape. That doesn't mean you can't build some muscle. That doesn't mean you can't get stronger. But if you're willing, if you want to push beyond your abilities, so to speak, you're going to have to do some stupid shit. And the idea to me, and I will never understand this, if you would have told me when I was 15 years old or 14 like you have to do this and that, and it was totally nerdy, I would have told you guys all to fuck off. It's ridiculous. I'm here to train. I'm here to train like a goddamn animal. All right. Yes, it's a little bit different now, but there's no way for the first 25 years of my life that I operated in the smart zone, so to speak. All right. That doesn't mean I did dumb shit all the time, but this idea that you're gonna like nerd out your training, guys, you're gonna have to do some stupid stuff. All right. I just don't understand how anyone could be talked into not being a dude. It's beyond me. It's like when you go play football, they're like, make sure you're wrapped doing all this stuff. Man, I'm flying towards someone. I'm going to stick my head right in their fucking sternum and I'm going to try and kill them. That's just like the aggressive nature of training, guys. And again, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But if you want to go bananas, or if you want to do something more than what you think you're capable of and push past that limit, you're going to have to do some dumb stuff. All right. I don't understand this obsession with not wanting to go banana. It's just weird to me. So that's one of the reasons why I really only like working with athletes, because they generally have that mentality. You have to hold them back more than tell them to go forward, so to speak. Oh, the pro lied. He said he didn't have a question, but now he does. Says, on templates that have your work up to your training max, can I do beyond, like in the 5-3-1 Beyond book, to ramp up? Yes. Just be smart about it. Just be smart about it. The problem I have is with a lot of people, and this is part of the mental part of training, is you're going to have a couple good days. You'll be working up. Everything feels good. And then you're going to have that day where you don't feel good, but man, I got to work up because I got to do it. Don't do it. Just keep it as is and just live to fight another day. Because what ends up happening is, like, let's say you bench 225 for the first time and you're all pumped up. Next time you come in the weight room, 215 barely moves because you're working up. That's a bad move. I tell the kids all the time, if you're feeling bad, don't verify that you're weak. Let's just pretend that we're not. All right. And then when you do feel good, we'll go ahead and ramp up, is the best way to say it. So never confirm that you're feeling shitty. For me, working with young athletes, I think that's one of the most important things. I try to give those kids the opportunity to have good days and wins on that day. If something's bad, I will adjust the training so that they have a good day. So that's what I would advise to you. Okay, he says, hey, I'm running the body build, the upper athlete, the lower program. Should I do 3 push-pull core accessories in addition to the 5s Pro and FSL? Will pull core be enough on upper body days to avoid getting a bloated chest? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. A bloated chest. Just do more shoulder stuff. So I guess you just don't want a bigger chest. Just do something different for your push. Do overhead dumbbells, steep inclines, stuff like that. Plate raises, the full range plate raises. Yeah, and if that's, for example, you don't want to do the push, then just do the pull and the core. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. I'm not sure. I apologize. But if you don't want to get a bigger chest, just don't do the exercises that do that and just cut it out. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Oh, boy. Siddharth. I'm sure I butchered that, buddy. I apologize. He says, good morning, boss. For an adult who's still too weak for the main lifts, is an assistant circuit of 1 move a day from each category enough? Yes. Or is it more frequent work on legs, abs, low back needed? So I think you're asking if you did like an assistant circuit every single day, right? Yes, it'll be enough. So for example, and you can always do a little bit more. So for example, let's say on one day you do dumbbell squats, push-ups, and lat pulls. The next day, let's say you do some kind of overhead press, some kind of row, and then maybe you can combine the abs and low back, so you do some ab work and then immediately do some back raises, for example. I don't think you need to go bananas on that stuff. Again, you have to take like a longer term approach and understanding. You don't have to have like, I've just kind of discussed this. Like, take a year. Think about all the training. You train every day, 365 days in the year. Just, good assistance work circuits and stuff like that. You're going to be so much farther along. You don't have to push it all into a week or push all your training into a day or anything like that. That's the most important thing to know. And I'm telling you, it works. All right, just be consistent and be patient. The more consistent and more patient you are, guys, the more successful you're going to be, believe it or not. If you keep on trying to shove as much stuff in there as possible, it's end up turning into a shit show. Okay, just like when people go to the gym after New Year's Day, right? They want to do a million things. Man, if they just said, listen, I'm going to commit to training in this weight room 3 days a week. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the training, 45 minutes to 60 minutes. I'm going to train hard. I'm going to be, reasonable about what I'm going to do. And then the other days I'm going to walk for 5 miles or whatever. I don't know. I just made that shit up. That's something that you can maintain. Okay. And this doing an assistance circuit, the 3 kind of things, that's all we did with James. It worked out tremendously. All right. Tremendously. All right. Again. All right, here we go. John says, thanks to you and your site, my parents' doctor visit. Oh, okay. So John says he took his parents to the doctor. This is John Donovan. He's a longtime follower or whatever you want to say. I appreciate it, John. His parents went to the doctor and they had a tremendous checkup. So listen, movement is medicine, people. I don't want to turn this into like a geriatric thing, but you've got to keep moving. And what that means could be whatever. My parents still lift weights. My parents still ride, do 20 to 25 miles several times a week on their bikes. All right, you got it. Whatever you can do, keep doing it. Keep pushing it. All right, Kuner says, hey, I'm 39. I'm trying to start running. For some conditioning, I had pain in my right calf for a week after the first time. Yep, even though I kept it easy, the second made it return. Any tips on how to approach this? Just lower the volume. The one thing I tell people all the time, if you're going to start running, this is how I started when I don't run anymore, but what I did was I did what they call fartlek running, and it's not exactly that, but this is what I did. Was I would run, I ran outside, probably, on the asphalt. I ran from mailbox to mailbox, and then I would walk from the next mailbox to the next mailbox, right? Obviously not all mailboxes were the exact same, 20 yards apart, whatever. So sometimes I would run from mailbox to light pole or something like that, or whatever, just random things, right? And so it ended up being very short distances, sometimes 10 yards, sometimes 40 yards, somewhere in there. All right, so I didn't continuously run. And so I let this was like 2 weeks. And I would do usually 1 mile to 2 miles. So it wasn't crazy or anything like that, but I just let my body get used to it without pounding the shit out of it. So I wasn't continuous jogging. Another easy way of doing this is to do 50-yard runs. So run for 50 yards, walk for 50 yards, run for 50 yards, walk. So I usually use a football field. I'm sure they have open areas wherever you live. Just you put 2 t-shirts down and just run that way and then walk back, run. And again, it doesn't have to be sprints. Just run, jog, whatever you can do. So that's what I would probably recommend, and do that until this is what happened to me. It was crazy. I started regular workout. This was about 2 or 3 weeks of just doing mailbox to mailbox or mailbox to light pole. I started, and when I got to the mailbox, I'm like, holy shit, I think I can go to the next mailbox. And I got to that one, I think, I think I can make it to that driveway. And oh my God, I'm going to go all the way to that stop sign. All right. And then all of a sudden I ran 1 mile without stopping. Holy shit. So then I didn't do that all the time. Some days I didn't feel that good. Within like 4 weeks, I ran a 7:28 mile. And this, I couldn't even run, basically more than 50 yards without, not my lungs hurting. It was my ankles and my calves and stuff. So you got to be a little smarter about the stress time, so to speak. So I don't know what you're running, but whatever it is, lower it and let your body adapt. Okay. Matt says, hey, I walk 45 minutes most days of the week. I was doing max OT for the last 2 months. I'm not sure what that is. It gave me good results in my late 20s and early 30s, starting 531 to get 315 bench, 400 squat, and 500 pound deadlift are my goals. That's great. Very good. I don't know what max OT is. Sounds like a Sunday night NFL TV show. Welcome to Max Overtime. All right, but good luck, man. Matt, just keep plugging away. Keep your training maxes solid. Don't be in a rush to add weight. Just focus on having good sessions day in and day out. Zachary Russell says, hey, Jim, what are your thoughts on subbing out shrugs for the 5 sets of 10 instead of deadlifts on boring but big? Yeah, you can. If shrugs, I mean, if you want to do it, it's not exactly a 1-for-1. I'd much rather have you do back raises, if I'm going to be honest, or straight leg deads for 2 or 3 sets of 10, or good mornings for 2 to 3 sets of 10 or something like that. But if that's what you want to do, hell, who cares? Just give it a rip, man. All right, is boring but strong meant to be done with 5s Pro or AMRAP sets? Usually with 5s Pro. Doesn't mean you can't do the PR sets, but generally speaking, because the supplemental volume is higher, we try to lower the effort, so to speak, of the main lift. So generally 5s Pro. Again, if you want to do the PR sets, that's up to you, but understand there's always going to be a price to pay. Also, what is spinal tap? That's one of the variations in the Forever book. And again, I'm sure most people who are probably a little older know Spinal Tap is one of the funniest movies ever made. Highly recommend it, but it's a training template in the Forever book. So, Scruff McBuff says, hey, also thank you for the Will Haven recommendation last week. Love this band. Oh, they're awesome. Got a unique guitar tone. Grady the singer, man, can he fucking scream. Oh, is he good. Question. All right. What accessory lifts would you recommend to increase size and strength of the triceps? So again, any kind of dumbbell work, dumbbell pressing, obviously huge would be dips would be massive if you can do them. Push-ups, if you don't have a base of general fitness, and I talk about this all the time, generally, if you got a shoulder, if you don't have a shoulder or some kind of injury in upper body, if you can't do 50 push-ups, 50 good push-ups, then that's definitely a weakness. You need to increase that. So I would definitely choose what I call like a full range of pressing movement with dumbbells, dips, push-ups, something like that, bomb the shit out of it. And then, hitting some direct tricep work. What I always like to do is supersetting band push downs with some kind of tricep extensions with easy bar, dumbbell, stuff like that. So you just do 5 sets of both and just smoke them. That's one of the best things I ever did for my triceps. But again, dips, push-ups, some kind of dumbbell press, get those bigger and stronger, and then direct tricep work maybe once or twice a week, alternating 5 sets of extensions and pull tricep push downs. Doesn't have to be a band, but whatever. So we just do high reps on the push downs, sets of 10, usually a 15 on the extensions. Your triceps will blow up. I lost my spot again. Jeremiah says, good morning, boss. Apologies. Oh, this may be a dumb question. I apologize in advance. I understand assistance exercises are upper push, upper pull, legs, and core. On press days, would I just do pull, legs, core, or additional push? You can do either. Generally, I like to do an additional push. Just like on squat day, we'll do some additional leg work. But it doesn't have to be terribly intensive. For example, if you're pressing, if you don't want to do any more pressing volume, we'll just do some tricep work, if that makes sense. So for example, when we are in season, when the kids are super fatigued, we will only do 2 of the assistance exercises, okay? So the answer, Jeremiah, is it can be both. Generally speaking, if you're doing a full body session, you can substitute one of the, for example, the push, instead of doing dips or something hard, so to speak, just hit a couple, 100 reps of tricep push downs with the band, and that will be your your push assistance movement for the day. So, but again, if you're feeling run down, fucking just take it out. You're good to go, brother. Chris, oh, I won't even, oh my God. Adlibi, oh boy, I apologize. Chris, he says, hi from Australia. Hell, you're from Australia. You're probably fairly polite. He's 54 years old, is Chris. I want to be consistent instead of being lazy, so I started doing 5 through 1, boring but big. Am I considered a beginner if my lifts are squat 176 for 5, bench, deadlift, overhead press? Yeah, I guess you're kind of I don't know. Chris, the most important thing is I don't get into this whole beginner, intermediate. I don't know. You are what you are. I don't really think you should label yourself. So you're 54. I don't know how much you've been training. I know you said you just want to be consistent. So, Chris, I don't think you're a beginner. All right? You've probably trained before. You're 54 years old. You understand things need to change. You're not like you're 15 years old. All right? So, I'm not exactly... I'm going to tell you, Chris, it doesn't matter. What other way? Just train consistently. Be smart with your training maxes. Be smart with the time you spend in the weight room. Still kick ass, but don't spend 4 hours in there or anything like that. And you're fine. Don't worry about what you are. Fuck, you're Chris, dude. That's the most important thing. All right? Just be the best version of Chris you are. If anyone wants to label you beginner, intermediate, let them worry about that shit. To me, it's pointless. Absolutely pointless to worry about that stuff. So I apologize. I'm not getting mad at you, Chris. You're from Australia. You got to be tough because you got like weird bugs there, and you have the box kangaroos, right? Every kid, when they walk to school, they have to like box a kangaroo. That's what I was told. And then you got to, I mean, really, you should be apologizing to Americans for Yahoo Serious, right? Oh my God, what a turd that guy was. Anyway, Chris, don't worry about it. Fucking train hard. You'll be fine. Who cares? Kuhner says, hey, thanks for your answer. You're about running. That's very helpful. Greetings from the Netherlands. Well, greetings from beautiful, beautiful London, Ohio. Matt says max OT is a bodybuilding style workout, 4 to 6 reps per exercise, 5 to 7 sets per body part. It was big in the early 20s. A guy named Jiff Willett and Skip LaCour were the main promoters. I remember Skip LaCour, that name. Early 2000s. All right, there you go. Awesome, awesome. Jeremiah says, thank you. It makes sense. Well, I appreciate it. All right, here we go. So we're almost done here. So if anyone has any more questions, please plop them in. There's no dumb question. Just kidding. Boop, 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 boop. All right, here we go. He says, might be a nitpicky question. Doesn't matter at all if the majority of someone squatting for assistance is deep and upright, but the barbell lift is low bar and higher. No. I think I know what you're asking here. Not at all. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to, not all your lifting, for example, I'll say this. When you're doing your main work, it should be, you should be very conscientious about doing it correctly. When you do any like the supplemental stuff, you can go ahead and do it like you usually do it, but the broader your range of physical abilities, so for example, let's say you kind of low bar, you know, and your stance is a little wider on your main work. If you're doing your FSL work, there is nothing wrong with putting that bar higher, bringing your stance in, raising your heels, and fucking sinking those squats like an Olympic lifter. The better you're going to be better, maybe not in the short term, but in the long run by developing a variety of different physical abilities. And people, the best way to look at this is with kids who specialize in sports at a young age and kids who do a shitload of sports. The kids who do a bunch of sports, especially like weird. I had a guy I played football with who was a tremendous golfer, and his brother was a tremendous tennis player, and they both ran track. They had a wide variety of physical abilities that they could rely on for every part of their life, and I think that's super important to do. So not everything should look the same when you lift, guys. Obviously, when you're doing the main work, right, you want everything solid. For example, when we work with the kids, if we do any drop sets on the bench, or even some of the the lighter, obviously the lighter stuff in the bench, we will use different grips because I tell the kids it's important to get strong in all the different grips, not just the one that you always use. Okay, Riley says, good morning, sir. Can you talk about why you chose the bench over the military press for parts 2 and 3? In the original Cryptea program, the number one reason why is because most people's military press is super weak, and we didn't use it as a main lift. We used the bench because obviously people are stronger at it. People want to bench way more. And the military press is a bugaboo for most people, especially with the population I work with. So we treated that as mostly an assistance lift, and that's the way it worked out. So it doesn't mean you can't do it. Not most people, military press is very weak, and honestly, we don't even use that as a main lift. We just bomb the shit out of it with assistance, and that if you do it right, your press will skyrocket. All right, if you do it right, and just we go bananas on that. So that's generally the reason why. So Squad RX says, yay, happy Thursday. Do you have the kiddos or yourself in your own training still do sit-ups? Yes, we do some kind of weighted sit-up. We hold someone steps on their feet to hold the plate. They sit up just like that. Yes, we do that as part of our warm-up. Bill Coyne, first of all, Bill, thanks for remembering the name Sonny Kirshner. I would have forgotten to look that up, and then I would have been training later today, and it would have driven me nuts. And there's nothing I hate more than when people are training and they're on their phone, so I refuse to look anything up on my phone when I'm training. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. See, he says, thank you for generously giving your time for these live streams. You make Gandhi look like a child pornographer. Hey, we don't know. All these things coming about all these weird people, right? You never know. But thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Scruff McBuff says, any plans to bring back the lifting meet you were doing a few years back? Probably not. It's just a lot of time. And honestly, I didn't really do that much. The individual who really did most of the groundwork, he is super busy. He's got kids. He is running a business. Phil Stevens is his name. And he's coaching and doing a bunch of other stuff, gym. It's a lot of stuff. So he's got a million things on his plate. I think it'd be a little unfair for me to ask him to do that. And honestly, I wouldn't ask him to do that. So it was fun. Unfortunately, the coronavirus or whatever the fuck, COVID, I don't know what people call it these days, kind of ruined that. It was awesome. I absolutely loved doing that. It was cool how we distributed the places and the winnings, because it gave everyone, regardless of gender or regardless of weight, a chance to win. And man, there's some strong dudes there. So Matt says, what would you say is the biggest difference in the 531 book and the 531 Forever book? I'm new to this. Matt, if you're new to it, don't worry about the Forever book. The Forever book allows you an idea of how to long-term program in basically 6 to 9 week blocks or something in there, something like that. So understanding how you can program long-term, I should say short-term and the long-term. So right now, Matt, don't worry about it, buddy. Just be consistent. Stick with solid training maxes. Stick with good bar speed. Make sure you're always doing awesome shit in the weight room. Keep the workouts brief. Keep yourself hungry. Make sure your food is taken care of. All that other stuff, don't worry about it. So it's just long-term understanding of how you program, okay? So especially if you're not, the other thing would be really good for people who are overzealous and trying to do a million things at once. That's the other thing. If you don't, but right now, Matt, you don't need to do that, man. Don't worry about it. I'm probably the worst salesman in the world, but you'll be good. You're fine. Stick with the basics. Dude, the basics worked for me for a long time. A long time. All right, it's 11:04. Does anyone have anything else going on here? Again, let's recap real quick while we wait for any more questions. We got Buried at Sea Migration, and we got Pyramids, a Northern Meadow. And what's crazy about Pyramids, there's a picture of the band there. Ooh, right there. Is they are from Denton, Texas. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Denton is the home of North Texas University. crazy. Look up North Texas University Jazz. Unbelievably strange. I believe that's it. I'm not. I could look this up, but I'm not going to. Anyway, check it out. Pyramids buried at sea. Look up. I believe North Texas Jazz, the university. Weird. Anyway, all right. Let's go ahead and get rolling here. I love you guys. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Brandon says any of those on Apple Music. I got no idea, buddy. It's okay. I know, Scruff. It was fun. He's talking about the 531 NOV meet. Yeah. Spoiler alert, COVID still success. Yeah. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for participating. Thank you for watching this. If you're watching this later on YouTube, as always, if you do something dumb this weekend, conditioning or challenge-wise, don't die, but have a good time being absolutely fucking miserable. You will be a better person for it, okay? Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Seriously, everyone who's part of this, I appreciate it. Some of the best times of my life is being on here, answering questions and helping people out. So